right, we'll turn things on. Welcome, everyone. We'll welcome you to our regular town council meeting of Tuesday, June 2nd. It's 4:03 p.m. We will go into a public hearing in a minute. There's some like rigmarole we have to do legally to do that. And that's why many of you are here. But for the regular town council meeting, can we have a roll call?
Spencer Wade. Gary Haas.
Jennifer Davila.
Greg Hornsby.
Mary Ewing.
Aaron Nelson serving as town manager.
Lee Collins, administrative director.
All right, good deal. Just a reminder for everyone, we're going to go into the public hearing in just a minute. If you do want to speak, we encourage you to sign up over in the back over there. That's going to allow us to kind of figure out who needs to speak and call you up when the time comes. We're going to do it in the order that you signed up. So you can get your name on there. That would be really great as we get the formalities going here. Should we do the minutes first then?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the minutes from our regular meeting of May 19th and also the our town budget at work open house that we did. Did anyone see anything they feel like should be corrected in those two sets of minutes? I didn't see anything either, so hearing no need to change, all in favor of approving those two sets of minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. We're now gonna accept public comment on items not in the budget, not in the public hearing. So we always let people come to us with any topic they want to. Many of you are probably here to talk about the budget, but if there's someone that has a comment on something other than that, we will have a public comment period like we always do in our regular town council meetings. So if anyone, because this is a little different, if anyone has a public comment not on that, please raise your hand. Okay,
I have a
man.
clarification question that I was gonna do ahead of the hearing. So for
Go
your,
ahead, man. You've got a lot of, a lot of deference as a formal council member, the clarification question.
well, I'm new in, and I haven't seen a lot of you guys lately, but here today, and thanks for doing all that you're doing, but I have one clarification that I'm hoping you'll, address when you explain that, and that is the timing of the new tax increase. Because I see that our year ends June 30th, the new one starts July 1st, but the hearing isn't until August. And I didn't know if that means it goes in at the first of the year if it were to pass, or if it goes to the next July or what. So,
I'll definitely clarify that. It is super confusing, not like the legislature ever makes anything complicated. But I will, yeah, I'll explain that, because it is a little bit weird, and they changed the law on that this year. Any other public comments not on the budget? Anyone online? Sorry, I should have said, if you're online and you want to make a public comment not on the budget, drop your name in the chat, or you can raise your hand, but better to drop your name in the chat. Okay. Hearing no need for other public comments, we will now officially move into the public hearing. So we need to take a vote to enter the public hearing. So all in favor of entering the public hearing, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are now in a public hearing. We'll do a quick roll call. Sorry, everyone, for the formalities. Starting on the end with Spencer.
Spencer Wade. Gary Haas.
Jennifer Davila.
Greg Hornsby.
Josh Ewing.
Aaron Nelson serving as town manager.
Lee Collins, administrative director.
It is 4:06 p.m. on Tuesday, June 2nd.
Okay. Crossing all our i's, dotting all our i's and crossing all our t's. It's on the record who's here for the public hearing, listening, all the things. All right, so what we're going to do again, I'll just reiterate, if you haven't signed up and you want to make a comment, make sure you do that in the back. We're going to give a little bit of background information, answering, addressing the issue, Luann, when we get going here in a minute. First, I wanted to raise something with the council. We had a request from former Mayor Lepinen that came in. You might have seen it come in yesterday afternoon, I think. I didn't see it till this morning. But again, giving a lot of deference to the folks that worked hard before. Her request was that we take the time during the public hearing to read into the record, like verbally read into the record, all the comments we have received to date. It's my inclination not to do that because it's not required. And that I think that gives undue deference to folks who wrote in multiple times and wrote very long comments over the people that are here and only have 3 minutes each. There's kind of disproportional verbal time to them. But I'm open if other folks would like to do that. We could do the kind of marathon reading session and pass a computer around or what have you. We have the comments mostly organized. We could do that. So I just wanted to raise it within council and see what you guys think about that. We have 19 comments from 13 people. So obviously there are some people that wrote in. I didn't count the number of pages, but it'd be something in the 25-ish page range to read.
Are they posted on?
I can't hear you, sir.
Are they posted online somewhere?
Yes, so I have posted them on the town council, like government and departments, Bluff Town Council, Truth and Taxation. There's a new web page for Truth and Taxation public comments. And all of them are linked besides the 2 that I received 10 minutes ago.
I will say that I want to make sure everyone looks carefully at their email or comments they might have gotten just to them and not to the rest of us or not to the manager, because it could be that there are comments that Erin hasn't seen come in if she wasn't copied on them or what have you. So we'll want to make sure that's eventually in the record if anybody received any comments like that. So we'll have to do some cleanup to that effect. So there may be a few missing comments in what we had in our packet and what's online. And we'll obviously keep updating those. But any thoughts?
I found that our website's pretty hard to navigate. And down through trying to find where it's at, for a lot of people, some people might not have access, but nowadays most do. I think with the importance of the matter we're talking about. And for the number of people we have here. And the people that are online. I feel that it'd be important to just take the time. To read all the comments in, rather than try to paraphrase them. Or, you know, who would be in charge of picking out the important points, just. Read them as they come in and take that time to do it. So I'd say to do it tonight, not another night. And then still post them online.
Other thoughts from other council members?
My thought would be, since they are publicly available, to not take the time tonight. I mean, I believe most of the people here that most of the people that made comments are here in person tonight, or at least a fair amount of them. So that, I mean, that would be my thought. It will be available for anyone to view. And kind of like Josh said, I do agree, if you've made multiple comments, that us reading it does go over like the time limit that we would put on any of you here to get up to the mic and say your piece about it.
Is there a way to like make it, to Gary's point, like we're hard to navigate? Is there a way to put it like splash page, like immediately on the front page, homepage or whatever, or?
Would like a
send
link,
out a link?
would a link on the homepage to that landing page work?
I mean, I'm inclined to towards just having them online. There is a fair amount of back and forth. We've all read them. Yeah, and I worry about reading them out loud in general, and just the context when I don't know that they were intended to be read out loud. I think they're better to be read because they're letters. So for me, I'd be fine making them available even here at the office if we could do that as well. But I'm inclined to post them elsewhere and you're posting.
I mean, certainly all of us should read them
Oh, yeah.
before our discussion next week. That's incumbent on us, our job, on the council. The question is there a public value of, making all these people wait? Like if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it before these people make their comments. So like, making all these people wait to make their comments. And, so like, if we wanna take the time to do that, like, we all need to be in for it.
Yeah, what are your thoughts, Shane?
I kind of go both ways. I find myself there and I thank you for the directions on how to find them. I was having a hard time finding them on the website as well. But now I do see that they're on there, but so maybe. And I think that if we could make it easier to navigate, find them, that would be good. I think that since the list that I'm seeing right now, one person has made 6 comments. You know, I mean, I don't know which, it just kind of seems like it's maybe becoming the forum for argument back and forth a little bit as much as anything. Which I don't think is what a public hearing is supposed to be. I don't know, and in honor of time, I kind of rather not read them, or rather not read them in the mic, because I can get lengthy. But I do want everybody to be able to see what people are saying.
And have easily accessible.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think, yeah, given as the chair of the meeting, I'll make the decision that we won't do it tonight. I will reiterate, at least I personally will stay here as long as anyone wants to stay here and listen. And we certainly I will make the commitment, I'm sure you guys would as well, that you're gonna read all these comments carefully, if you haven't already.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I went through.
I will reiterate, I totally understand, we're gonna have a 3-minute public comment tonight. 3 minutes is not enough time to address something tough like this. Which is why we encourage people to do written comments where we can read something longer than 3 minutes. We appreciate those folks who have written in. And I personally, like, just because this is the public hearing, it's not mean I'm gonna stop listening after this, right? We're not making a decision for a couple of weeks. So there's a lot of opportunity to still talk to us after the public hearing, if you're not able to say everything you need to say in the 3 minutes that you're allotted. Okay, I want to take a little minute to do that, to have that discussion. To talk about the next steps, we're gonna do this public hearing now where everybody gets to speak for 3 minutes. We will corral all the comments that we've gotten, make sure they're on the website. We will all read them, and then at our work session next week, we will discuss, what we've heard from the public and what changes we may or may not want to make to the budget. So that work session next week will be really important because we'll be making that. That is not when we will vote on, but we will have that discussion at the work session. So we'll have about a week to kind of digest what people say tonight, digest what we've read, think about what we want to do, have that discussion at the work session next week. And then 2 weeks from today is when we would actually vote on the budget. So we talk about it in the work session and then we make whatever changes and then we'd actually vote on the budget. So there's really 2 weeks for everybody to still, bend our ears, so to speak. And 2 weeks for us to mull over the public input that we're receiving. If that makes any sense.
And what's that last day for written public comment?
I have it as Friday, June 19th at 5 p.m. No, apologies, Friday, June 12th at 5 p.m. So next Friday, which is about 10 days, that's 10 days from today. So Friday, June 12th, 2026 at 5 p.m.
So folks can also, write in more extensive comments on what you have tonight. Okay, those are kind of the next steps on that. I wanted to address Luann's question because it's really confusing the way the state has done this. The state law lays out the process where we have to create a budget and pass a budget. We have to have a new budget in place by the end of June. Legally, you have to have a balanced budget in place by the end of June. But for entities going through the truth and taxation process, which we will be if we adopt a budget that has a tax increase in it, then you have additional items that you have to do, including the truth and taxation hearing, which is scheduled for August 5th at 6 p.m. So it seems weird. Why would you do this truth and taxation meeting way in August? It's essentially another hearing like this. It's like another opportunity for people to kind of speak their piece on tax. It is another level of importance, that's maybe the wrong word, but of clearance that we had to do. So we had to look at all the other dates of public meetings happening in San Juan County and make sure it wasn't happening on a date that another taxing entity was doing a tax increase. We have to do it at 6 PM or after, so we couldn't do it during our normal meeting. So that's, if you'll notice, that's a Wednesday instead of our normal Tuesday date. So that public hearing happens, town council makes a final decision on whether or not to raise the taxes or not raise the taxes. In that intervening period of time between when we adopt the budget and it goes into effect on July 1st and the truth and taxation hearing, we are not allowed to spend any of that revenue that would be generated from a tax increase. So that $50,000 that's proposed is supposed to sit over like in a side bucket of the accounting system and not be sent. So for example, we're saying that we would spend some of this money on hiring somebody. We would not be able to start the hiring process until that process is all done. It's a weird thing that they changed in the laws last year, but it's basically to assure the public that the money will not be spent until that hearing happens. Got the same
Yeah.
understanding?
Yeah, the only other comment would be for if the proposed property tax went into effect, you would see it on this year's property tax bill. So the one that comes out in the fall for the county's year of, the calendar year ending 2026. Ours is a little different since we run July through June, but it would take effect for your property taxes paid this fall/winter. Another reason that push things back is because the county assessor's office doesn't complete a lot of their stuff until the early part of June. So they are just wrapping up things. You'll probably see some statements coming from them. So we are also waiting to ensure that they have the correct numbers. So then we can do the correct calculations to get to the certified tax rate that reports up to the county and the state.
Okay. If you don't mind pulling up that PowerPoint and we can put it on the screen. Gonna give a little bit of an overview. Again, this is some legally required information that the legislature required us to pass on in the last legislative session. But as if anyone here doesn't know, the budget that we're considering does involve considering increasing the tax rate. And let's see, you can read it up there, but it's got a lot of zeros in front of it, but it's 3 zeros, 543 is our current tax rate. And it would go to 2 zeros, 113663 if this was passed into place. This would generate $50,000 of new revenue for the town, resulting in a total proposed tax collection of $83,186. That is the tax rates are approximate based on what Aaron said. The county does not have the total evaluations for the town done yet. We're basing those off of last year's valuations, but we don't expect the valuation of the town to change dramatically. That would, the revenue generated would be a property tax increase of 151% in revenue. That's not 151% in the rate, but 151% in revenue. You can go to, okay, yeah. Oh, and for anybody that needs it, there is a piece of paper back there. It's called the property tax impact statement that has all this information on it if you want to go back. But essentially what that would mean is for the primary residence with a market value of 233,800, which is technically the average according to the county, that'd be an increase in your taxes to the town of Bluff of $105.61. That's important to note that it's to the town of Bluff. If other people raise taxes and other entities raise taxes, that would be them, but this is to the town of Bluff. If you had a house that's worth $500,000, that'd be $225 a year. Those have built into them the residential exemption, so you get 45% off essentially for a primary residence. Businesses do not get that, so that's why we have a separate number for that. The average business property would pay $364 a year. If you're $1 million business, it'd be $1,366 a year, and you could do the math. If it's a $10 million business, it'd be 10 times $1,366. That's good. The proposal is to use this money on supporting emergency services for the town, including hiring a part-time emergency services position. that would help coordinate, with, the folks that we work with on Division of Forestry of State Lands, the BLM, our town responsibilities and so forth. And so that department would have an increase in budget of $50,000. This slide shows just a little bit of the background of where Bluff sits in relation to other towns and cities in Utah. As you can see, we're about less than half of the property tax rate of Blanding, 2 times less than Monticello, and 5 times less than Salt Lake City right now. We did a whole presentation on this at the open house the other night for those of you who were able to attend. And if you want to watch it, we recorded the whole thing. But rather than do another 30-minute presentation tonight, we let you watch that presentation. But we wanted to give the high level of the comparisons. On the next slide, talks a little bit about why we think it's important to invest in emergency services. One is a request from the fire department leadership for administrative support. We also have significant new legal responsibilities as a town under wildland urban interface responsibilities under HB 48, as well as some new emergency management responsibilities that we actually just learned about last week. To help with public education, recruiting, incentives for firefighters and EMTs, and grant writing. Is the idea for why we would work on that position. Obviously, you look at those things, that's probably like 3 full-time jobs. But the idea is to start with a part-time position. And finally, there are some other major changes that are in the budget. We do have some copies printed out, and you can look at the whole details of the budget on the website. But as I mentioned, the taxes, the property tax increase, we have also estimating all those tourism related taxes there to be down a little bit based off of the realities of tourism travel these days. We budgeted fairly conservatively for that. We have $83,000 in road funds coming in as those gas tax prices, gas tax revenues. We had a little bit coming in grants, but we didn't want to kind of assume we were going to win grants that we're applying for. So if there are additional grant monies, they would generally be used for hard costs like things over at the old elementary school. On the expenses side, some of the major changes is that we are proposing to employ a new note taker and ADA compliance role. We have a bunch of new responsibilities under the Americans with Disabilities Act to comply with. And we are also proposing to give employees benefits for the first time, which our full-time employees have not had health benefits or retirement benefits in the past. Obviously, we talked about the emergency services, and there are a few other community and facilities projects that are proposed. A maintenance position, a proposed 1099 contractor that would help with maintenance of town facilities and roads, hopefully to save us money over going out and trying to find larger contractors. Some dark sky community work, a little bit for trails, and some community promotion, a wayfinding project that's been requested by the business community, as well as some support, direct support for the business owners of Bluff. So those are super high level elements of the budget. Obviously, there's a lot more to that. But we wanted, since this is a hearing about the budget, we wanted to find that out for folks. So with all of that preamble, we can get to the point of being here tonight, which is for all of us to listen to all of you who want to make a comment about the proposed budget, which, as we mentioned, does include a potential tax increase. The way we're going to run this, maybe Malia, if you wouldn't mind grabbing the list of names, is we're just going to go down the list. If you wouldn't mind, when you come up, just say your name and your address and your kind of affiliation with town, if you're a business owner, a homeowner, or anything to that effect. We'll just go down the list. I'm going to keep track of time. We're going to ask you to commence to approximately 3 minutes each. I'm not gonna treat this as an NBA shot clock, so like, when we get to the end of 3 minutes, I'll say something like, hey, can you please go on, wrap it up or whatever. And if you can just, in a couple of sentences, wrap up your thoughts at that point, that would be great. Oh yes, folks online, thank you for reminding me. For folks online that want to make a comment, please put your name in the chat. So put your name in the chat, and that's how you'll get in order to make a comment online. So please put your name in the chat, and we're going to do the same thing as we're doing here in person, is we'll just take the names in the chat in order that they come up. All right. Council members, anything you can think of I've left off process wise? Sound right? All right. We have some esteemed people on the front of the list. So first up is Linda Sosa, former council person for Town of Bluff.
Linda Sosa, council or property owner. My address is 16 North 4th East. I am against this increase in property tax and ask the council to vote against the proposed budget. Do not wait for the property tax public hearing in August and leave the town in limbo. Drop the property tax increase now. Erin will have to redo the budget, which is due in June, but she's excellent at accounting. Josh and Dawn need to work with council members and work in a group on the job description and plan for the proposed job. The most important thing we do as a town is transparency. In Dawn DeLego's letter, she was transparent about not having a plan. Also, no job description, and certainly not run by our lawyer, who's given us excellent advice in the past. But I'm not opposed to the creation of a new unknown job. Erin worked hourly for us for several years before the town manager position came up, and she got it and is salaried. Malia worked as director of the community center parks for several years hourly before her job expanded in scope to the point that we offered her a salaried position for what she was doing. I believe this new job should follow the same pattern. We don't know. We know very little about this job right now. It's going to take a lot of work to figure out the pieces of it. There is no reason to rush anything. So this job is the main reason given to raise the property tax. Fire, EMTs, and deputy coverage are free services from the county that come out of county property tax and include maintenance of vehicles, equipment, and supplies for free. If the fire truck has a pattern, someone calls the county, they come down and fix it. The town has plenty of funds to fund this job, especially if it's hourly. There's no reason to put our property owners and business owners through this kind of financial upheaval. If you, as a council, really want this job to happen, it should be hourly. And with the other two jobs, as it goes along, it fleshes out. So
If you don't mind wrapping up, thanks.
right now, the letter from Dawn today can be summed up as, give us some money, we have no plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Next up is esteemed former mayor Ann Lepinen.
I mean, I can walk it there. So I'm Ann Leckman. I'm a resident and a voter, and my address, thanks to Ed Dobson, is now 685 West Cottonwood in Bluff 84512. I am impressed that you tackled this. Truth in taxation, it's scary. There's a lot of work. There are a lot of ways to misstep. I'm impressed by how the budgeting has gone. I know that having worked with Aaron in the past, knowing how diligent Josh is, Mayor Ewing, that this is not an easy task. But I'd like to remind people of a couple of things. First of all, 2 years ago, I believe, maybe a little more, the commercial businesses got hammered with tax appraisals, hammered. And some of them are here today. I don't know how you expect to have everybody get an increased tax bill in 3 or 4 months after what's happened to commercial businesses. I would ask that you slow it up. You spend some time looking at what the impact is, the net impact, which I'm not sure, because the tax is not my forte. I'm not sure that it nets out the dollar amount that's being presented at 50,000. I would ask that you talk with Bob Springmeyer or someone who's educated and watched trend after trend after trend of property tax increases. I would like to remind folks that creating a position for a named person really doesn't have a good optic. That just doesn't feel like the best way to say, we need to fund this position. And I don't think there's anyone in this room or in this town who doesn't believe that we have to support EMS and Bluff Volunteer Fire Department. We are thankful that they're there, and what we need to do is have some long-range planning, because this is coming at us. I don't have any doubt, we've been talking about it for several years with the county. The last thing that I'd like to add about this is when you tie the property tax to a specific type of tax, I'm not sure that that's permissible. And I'm saying I'm not sure because I'm not sure. I don't know. But I'd like to see some further digging. I'm sure you've done a lot. I know everybody on the council, I know you're very diligent. But I'm not sure this is the best way to approach increasing property tax and funding a position when the town does have money right now for this year to fund that position, while you're talking about should we increase taxes. And finally, to the point of my asking you to read all of those public comments that came in writing, just a little point that if some of those folks are here that did a very lengthy 5-page, whatever, they're gonna get a chance to talk again. So I would like to make sure that we get to see, for those of us who are challenged on the computer, a way to look at what's been written, because I could have written 10 pages, shown up today and had 3 minutes, vice versa. So thank you for your work. It's a hard job and I appreciate everything you're doing, but slow it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. No one knows how hard of a job is better than you do. Maybe just quickly, we could also let people like look at hard copies, right? And I think we even have some.
Yeah, I have the packet, minus one I got just before the meeting.
All right, well, I'm happy to do that. Like, we could spare a little, we can have a little expense of the town to print those out for people too, if that's helpful. So not, you don't have to navigate the website. All right, next up is Luann Hook. We're running on the formal council here.
That's because of what order we came in.
Yeah, you guys know how to be on time.
So I'm Luann Hook, former council member, part of the corporation process. So it's been about 10 years. I'm a business owner, lived here for 38 years, and also a resident. So I'm also part of the fire department. We've got a fire radio in the house. And we help with dispatch where we can in communication. So I guess I'd like this to start with, I would like you to table it. I have not talked to the previous 2 speakers, But I feel like that is the appropriate thing to do is slow it down, table this. You're brand new at the council. If this has turned out to be way more divisive than you probably thought it would be. It's hitting in the thousands and thousands for businesses. They're the ones that are gonna carry this load. So you're hitting businesses at a low. It's not, COVID's gone. It's not as low as COVID, but it's not a good time to say, hey, all you guys, ante up again. You get a lot from the businesses. As far as volunteers, I would like to thank all of you for volunteering, the water board, the food bank, planning and zoning, the mayor, fire chief, firefighters, the arts festival, the balloon festival, the highway trail, working on that with UDOT, with my team, the Bluff River Trail, the cemetery board, the weed control, the airport manager, the park, the horse rescue, dark sky. Okay, so this is a slippery slope. You've picked out one volunteer, and I love the fire department. I love all you guys, and I don't want to be any more divisive than this has already started. But you pick one volunteer and pay them. Which other of these are you not going to pay? And how much, if that's the goal, is to get everybody in town a paid job, point that out. But it's not what's been the goal for the last 10 years, is to get all of these positions paid. It's good to have a nest egg. We've been saving a lot of money, saving it, getting it invested, making it so you have something to match when you do have a need, or you have a low year where nobody's bringing in tax money. I would suggest it be on the ballot. If you're gonna do it, that takes the pressure off of you all. There's a ballot coming up this fall because of the county commissioners and whatnot, so you wouldn't have to pay the bill. The last time it's gonna be $8,000, so you could bypass that and take it off the shoulders of you guys deciding. And then the max, I'm a little worried about the max that you can keep taking from property owners, because it maxes out at 0.007 and we're at 0.0005 or 4, whatever you said. So that's makes me a little nervous to see the potential without putting it on an election. And I could go on, but anyway, thank you. And thanks for being here and listening.
Thank you, Glenn. Next up, Mark Powell. A lot of volunteers here.
Another volunteer, right? My name is Mark Powell. I live at 465 West Larkspur in Bluff. Lived here for quite a while. And, first off, there's a misconception that if we don't agree to this tax, did we lose our EMS services? That's completely untrue. Even with this tax increase, Bluff can't fund this program. It's also been implied that volunteerism is getting to be an unsustainable or an unfair option. Therefore, people need to get paid. Starting with this proposed tax. However, in reality, this proposed tax does basically one thing. It will provide a salary for one part-time person at a starting rate of $40,000 per year. Everyone else is still on a volunteer basis. This town was built by volunteers, and rightly so, as most small towns such as Bluff cannot create revenue needed to sustain itself without creating an economic hardship on the majority of its residents. Now, including everything else our current property tax currently are used for, the county's portion alone is over 300% higher than Bluff's portion. That's particularly due, among other things, funding EMS. However, our valuation went from 24.7 million to 60.9 million, resulting in more taxes being paid. So why doesn't the town petition the county for a higher percentage of that increased revenue instead of adding another tax to its residents? In closing, I would say that Bluff chose incorporation in order to keep Bluff Bluff. However, the results I've seen so far is that it's continually put a larger economic burden on its businesses, It's getting more expensive for residents. And it has created more rules, making it harder to do anything here. And this proposed tax just adds to that. I don't know how much longer we can sustain this, guys. And I commend everybody that's ever volunteered for this town. But if you think that we can take and go from volunteerism to start paying people, that's completely off the books. There's no way 250 people in a town can sustain itself. I commend everybody sitting on this board for what they've done. But I am completely in agreement with Luann that table this and not even look at it until we can work it out. We've got other ways to volunteer, to fund people that can run administrative positions. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Liza Duran up next.
Liza Doran, Cow Canyon Trading Post. What's my address? 940 East Main, I believe it is. I've been a business owner in Bluff for 40 years. This is my 40th anniversary, and I'm proud of it. I'm opposed to raising the property taxes. I believe there are other places to look for the money, including a surplus from the budget. So if you deem that this is a valuable position, I would seek other methods to pay for it. One thing I learned about in running a business in Bluff for that many years is you start off slow. I lived on beans and none of my chairs matched in the restaurant. And I applaud and agree with everyone who's spoken so far so eloquently. And I also applaud the many people in Bluff that volunteer, and you all, and all the dedication. It's very true that I believe we were really slammed by an increase in property taxes 2 years ago, and I mean slammed. And this is not a fair distribution. But if the town studies this and believes that this position is very useful and helpful, find the money. This is not a good year to come after businesses. I don't know if any of you have been at a gas pump lately or think about an administration or show me a slide that says, oh, by the way, the room tax is a little down. You bet it is. So consider this carefully and find other sources of funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Liza. Next up is Kelly Martin.
Hi, Kelly Martin, Bridgewater Market. Also, Green Mountain Pro. I'm here because just like everyone says here, I'm just kind of fortifying what they're saying, is that no one has any anger or anything as far as towards individuals, but we just got hammered with the county with taxes, especially the businesses. And with the economy the way it is, the tourism down, I mean, this is gonna break backs. This is terrible. I mean, employees are making more than what a lot of business owners are making, because we want to treat people right. And it's just the wrong time. It's just the wrong time.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you.
Last on the list here is KH.
My name is Katie Aitchison. I live in Bluff at 245 East Black Locust. I'm a member of the fire department. I'm a business owner and I am a young person in Bluff. From my perspective, as a member of the community and a member of the fire department, I believe it's important to invest meaningful financial support for the Bluff Fire Department in return for the volunteering and risk-taking they've done for us for many, many years. As a young person and one of only 2 firefighters under 50 until last night, and business owner, yes, I rent, but my rent goes to the landlord's property taxes. I'm looking towards the future. I believe it's crucial to contribute to opportunities for more young people to come to town and have meaningful, well-paying work. I also believe it's essential to create a community that values its public infrastructure and supports it in concrete ways. This position would be a way to continue to grow extremely necessary and fundamental services. And as exampled by the other 2 incredible paid town employees, the Emergency Services Department and town could reap the benefits. Both the town manager and administrative director have done so much for Bluff. They've streamlined current services, increased the town's budget, secured grant funding for huge projects, and they've done many, many more things behind the scenes that I don't know about. This person will be able to work in a similar capacity, and I can only imagine how positive it will be. I know there are concerns about money. However, given the presentation during the community open house, it is clear to me, because of the way taxes work in Utah, Bluff's tax revenue is decreasing over time due to inflation, and ultimately it's hurting the ability of the town to grow its infrastructure and services. I think we should raise taxes to keep up with that, to help create a more sustainable department and future. The world of volunteerism looks different today than it did when the fire department was started. Since its inception in the 70s, volunteers have served this community in ways no other volunteers can. Last night, we heard from former Fire Chief Jim Hook and former volunteer firefighter Von Hedenfeld heartfelt stories of camaraderie and learning on the fly. Pregnant first responders putting out fires in their neighbors' yards, spraying fire hoses in flip-flops and t-shirts, shared care and gratitude for one another in this tiny corner of the world. We also know that 2026 is a much different world from that world. We now understand much better the toxic nature of smoke from burning buildings, trash, industrial equipment, etc. No more pregnant first responders and no more flip-flops. Equipment is expensive and difficult to upkeep. Even while maintaining protective gear, needs tracking, needs maintenance, and needs someone to look after it. Plus, rules and regulations from many different stakeholders, including state and federal levels, insurance companies, extractive industries, etc., have made the job of a volunteer much harder and more complex. Parts and pieces of these increased complexities could be handed off to a new position so that the fire chief and other volunteers can focus their time on responding to calls and being sufficiently trained for the many incidents that come their way. The original reason for the creation of the volunteer fire department, which I learned last night, was to help lower fire insurance costs for property owners in town. Since then, the department has worked hard to lower fire risk in order to keep property owners' insurance prices down. As the world increases in complexity, the burdens on the fire department grow. This position would help the department rise up to meet these complex demands and transform to exist in a way that would help not only respond to emergencies at a high level, but also help the community and its land, properties both public and private, thrive. If the fire department can't keep up, it could disappear, which would not only be tragic for the town, but also put a financial burden onto property owners in ways yet unknown. I suggest choosing a way in which we invest financially and the way that we choose in order to achieve the best results possible for both the fire department and the town of Bluff itself. Thank you.
Okay. All right, that's everybody we have on the list. Was there anybody that didn't get their name on the list that wanted to talk? Okay, I am seeing, what's that?
Anybody online?
Yeah, I'm seeing Jim Hook online wanting to make a comment. If anyone else online wants to make a comment, please put your name in the chat, and then Jim, just give us a quick second to make sure we know how to get the sound in here.
I think we should be good. Jim, would you give it a shot?
Test, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
There you go, Jim. Good, thank you.
650.
Okay, I think I see me up there too. Thank you guys for working on this project. I know it's not fun. to stick your head into a bee's nest with controversial projects. Um, uh, Speaking as a volunteer, I've worn many, many hats in this town, as I'm sure a lot of other people have too. We're a town of volunteers. Mark's said it. And I love everybody on the fire department. I said that last night. They're the people that hold the town together, along with all of us volunteers. Um, as a the fire department won't disappear. You know, I pulled a job for 20 years and maybe I didn't do a sterling job, but I jumped out of bed every time the siren went off and helped neighbors and neighbors helped me too. What worries me about this project is we're looking for money before we even really have a plan. Don said something about working on a strategic plan for the fire department. I think that's a good idea. I don't think you need to fund anything until you have a plan in place, not just for today, but tomorrow. Bluff Fire Department won't go away. Um, Even us old guys will step back in before that happens. Um, I'm in my mid 70s now, but I can still pull a hose and I know which end of the hose the water comes out of. And I'm willing to lay down like that. I'd say table your tax, uh, do some planning on your strategic thing, get some input from residents and all firefighters from the county, everybody else, and work your way up on this. Don't just jump in and raise taxes. What we've noticed is that taxes never go back down again. They only keep going up. And so I really don't think we need to um, put a period at the end of this one until we have some more planning on it. So thank you all for what you do. And as Faybell used to say, thank you what you do for me.
Thanks, Jim. Not seeing any other names in the chat online. So with all that, I think we can go ahead and wrap up the public hearing. Call for a vote to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we will consider the public hearing closed.
It is 4:55 PM.
For those of you who want to stick around, we do have a few items on our agenda that we're going to move through now. You don't have to stick around, but if you want to stick around, we do have a couple of items. Maybe Spencer is signaling maybe a moment for a bio break. All right. We will pause for just a minute on the bio break. If anyone wants to speak again, if you want to stick around, you can. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna pause the recorder. It is 4:55 PM. We'll be right back. Thanks. Thank you.
but we're gonna move through the rest of our agenda now.
5:03 PM.
Yeah, it's 5:03. Moving through the rest of the agenda. We completed the public hearing, and so now, to come back to the fire, restrictions ordinance. So, as a brief, reminder on our last discussion around this, we had, put forward an ordinance that was real similar to what the council members had done in previous years, and Gary raised some, legitimate questions. We ended up doing some research on. And the direction that Aaron and I ended up taking was just to really simplify the ordinance and take out references to fireworks and tracer ammunition and smoking that are things that are clearly banned on public lands around us. And just focus on what the town has clear legitimate authority to do, which is to burn the ban burning within town boundaries. If people use fireworks illegally, there are penalties for using fireworks illegally under state law, right? So we felt like just to simplify it and kind of hopefully address the issues with kind of the previous wording of the ordinance, that we'd simplify it that way. Don't know if we've accomplished that, but I wondered if folks got a chance to look at the revised ordinance, and if you have any further questions than what we discussed last time. Barry, you were kind of the main instigator last time, so any further?
Could you put up the
Share my screen.
document, please? Yeah.
Well, the way I see it from the ordinance that was there when I printed it, don't know what it says now, but word enacting, just basically no open fires. And then the rest is covered by state or county.
Right. That was my effort to just kind of simplify this and not get into the weeds of all the different state says this and state says that
And this fireworks, the smoking, the,
right.
all of that.
Took all that out. And, you know, there's a little worry in my head that if there was like a big fire that was caused by something dumb, like, well, the two things would be smoking or the tracer ammunition. If there was a fire caused from that, those aren't illegal under other Utah laws. So we wouldn't really have any recourse to go after anyone, but it just seems like such a small likelihood and unlikely that we would enforce anyway. That like the main thing we're trying to do here is just educate the public not to be, doing open burns during this season. And so that was my thought to make it less complex. And the other thing is, to your point about penalties, we also just referred straight to the Utah code. And it's like, it's kind of complex because there's a different penalty on a red flag day than other days, but if we're referring to that code, no one can say we're creating extra complexity. It's just what the state said.
And then Aaron, you said the one thing that got added was about agriculture. Can you explain that a little more?
So I would leave that at your jurisdiction. So, just before the meeting, I got a call from town legal counsel, and he stated that, he did propose, I guess in 2020, he had drafted an ordinance regarding fireworks. So in your packet, I've included that draft. If that's something you wanted to look at in the future, that's not what you all are looking at today. But he also stated that in Utah State Code, there is an exemption for agricultural lands to essentially allow them to do burning along like fence lines and things like that to upkeep their land. So the reference to that code, again, I would have gotten this to you earlier, but only heard from him just a bit ago. Let me see if I can get to this really fast. So in the state fire code, Utah State Code 65A-8-211, there are some exemptions It does get a little complicated, so if you wanted to add this, you know, as an exemption, right now, the only exemption is for the volunteer fire department. But this Utah code, let me see. And in talking with legal counsel, he also did say that like Utah makes all of this very difficult, but just fire restrictions in general are very difficult. But under section 8, it says, except for during a red flag warning, as described above, burning permit is not required for the burning within 10 feet of cultivated lands on fence lines, banks or canals, ditches of irrigation ditches, for those agricultural lands. So that's the only thing he wanted to bring up. But I would also say, since this is state code always, it would preempt our code. So even if we didn't reference it directly, folks could just go to the state code.
Well, and we do reference it directly as it relates to the penalties, so like, you know, if the penalty is according to this, well, there's no penalty if you're an agricultural land, so. It just feels like like more complexity than we need to like put in an agricultural exemption. When we're saying that the penalties as are per the state and there's no penalty under that agricultural land. So. You know, just keeping it simple, I mean, again, the likelihood that someone's gonna. In the limited agricultural areas we have, be burning around a fence. And we wouldn't have anything to go after them on anyway under the state law, so. Any other questions or discussion on it? Feel comfortable voting? I will have to say we are one day past the open burn season for the rest of the state, so it's good for us to get this in place, and we are gonna do some education on it, get some signage up, those sort of things. Because this is a resolution, we need to do a roll call vote, so ordinance, sorry, an ordinance. Spencer?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Britt?
Yes.
Josh, yes. All right, we have passed a fire ban. If you're listening, please do not have open burns between now and October 31st unless we rescind this ordinance before that. All right, another new business item. We're not going to vote on this tonight, but we wanted to bring you up to speed on some discussions with the Southwest Heritage Foundation regarding the cemetery, and then make sure everybody is kind of okay with the direction we are headed. This would have to come back to the council for formal approval later. But as y'all have discussed, there's a piece of property adjacent to the current town cemetery up there on the hill that's owned by the Southwest Heritage Foundation. It's about 1.8 acres, 1.84 to be exact, that we're proposing to acquire from the Southwest Heritage Foundation to add on to that cemetery. It's not like the whole cemetery hill, it's not the great house, but it's that kind of rectangle that goes to the west of the current Bluff Town Cemetery that Mayor Lebanon worked so hard on getting going. And they have requested consideration of about $10,000 for us to acquire that land from them. Obviously, going property in Bluff is a lot more expensive than 10,000 acres, or this would be a little bit more than $5,000 an acre. So it seems like a very reasonable price to pay to acquire that land. That would allow them to have some funds to do some things up on Cemetery Hill that they want to do. I think they want to do some remodel or improvement to that kiosk that's up there for the great house and so forth. Regardless of what their intention of what it is to use it for, it seems like a really reasonable price. And so my suggestion, and talking with Aaron, our suggestion is that we go ahead and move forward with that would be an agreeable consideration to get for that property. And we go through the process of getting the deeds worked up and all the paperwork for us to vote on to take that property into town ownership. So any questions or concerns with that direction? Oh, we do have money in the budget for that, this year's budget. Not that we were just doing the hearing on, but this year's budget, we had money in the budget for the cemetery to be able to do that. So we don't need to like make a budget amendment or anything to that effect. We have the money in the budget. Anything you'd add, Aaron?
The only thing I would note, and this is kind of like a little weird in terms of like how the map really plays out. So what was acquired from the Hole in the Rock Foundation is really only like half of the current burial sites. So it kind of like is a weird, like we have like a section, maybe a section and a half that's currently under the town. And so part of what is, we're looking at acquiring would be the rest of that plus the future spot. I don't know if I dropped it in your, agenda packets. I should drop this in your agenda packets. I'm so sorry. So I've got a draft, and this is something that like the cemetery board and the Southwest Heritage Foundation and myself and Brad Bunker are all going over. But let me just show you really fast the exact, and I'm sorry for not getting this in here. I'll show you the drafted survey. So you guys can kind of picture this a little bit better. And again, it's just a draft as kind of a starting place. Once we have a little bit more, share it from the screen as well. Okay, so, and this of course is not overlaid on like anything that's really helpful, but you can kind of envision it this way, that the cemetery road comes up here. This is kind of just before the turnaround. So that little cul-de-sac loop is kind of where my cursor is here. And then back down the road. So this track A would be what we were seeking Heritage Foundation. And we should note that this is also most of the area that was surveyed by the ground penetrating radar team. And so we already know that the acreage over here doesn't have anything of massive concern. Like we have some unmarked burials in this area, soon to be marked, but unknown burials. So this is going to be a lot more usable space for future cemetery use. I think it would also be potentially helpful when you all get to kind of the finalization stage, maybe we can get an update directly from the cemetery board to make sure, if there are additional thoughts or anything. But I didn't know how long today's meeting was going to go, so I didn't necessarily want to extend it too much. But are there any questions that we can pass back to the cemetery board? We actually have an individual from the board here, so kind of liaison if there's any questions you have or concerns.
Does this encompass any of the hill of Cap Canyon Road?
It does. So the northern boundary, here, let me bring up another map.
Basically, Jen, my understanding is like, if you're standing right on the crest of the hill, and you kind of gotta estimate it, but it'd be maybe a third of the way down the hill is where that boundary stops, but
Yeah.
they wanted to do just something like clean and square.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah. I asked that out of curiosity. So
It's a very good question. Yeah, so the northern boundary is gonna be approximately here on the map that I'm showing on my screen.
The darker part is the hill, like the
Yes.
vegetation grows on that hill.
Yeah. And then this, so what the town currently holds is kind of this section here. They've got kind of area in here, and then that rectangle, the proposed rectangle intersects with the footpath. So we can kind of visualize it some like this full rectangle here. And then the cemetery board is talking about, access, and they would propose some additional thoughts as to, usability of the space. But for now, just securing that space, especially securing the sections that are already being used here, is very important.
So it's the lot that is to the west of the Hole in the Rock Foundation lot. Gary's got pulled up on.
That we acquired, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, so
Okay.
section
Yeah.
E is what we have acquired. Right next to it over here to the east, that's still Hole in the Rock. Hole in the Rock is to the south, and then Southwest Heritage Foundation would maintain property on these other two boundaries as well.
Yep.
If you drive the road you can look up and there's like brick. Yep. Squares that got a mark the boundary from fence posts, so it kind of gives you an idea as to where that is on the trail.
Okay. Not hearing any concerns about moving forward, we'll keep that process going and come back with the final documents and so forth that we need to finalize it. Was Malia gonna kind of talk us about the plan? Do you want to let us know about the open speed on the planning commission?
I'm sad to report that we are down one planning and zoning commissioner. So we do have a midterm vacancy that extends until the end of this year. So anyone wants to join, someone please. It's only a 6-month term. It's a great chance to try out planning and zoning and see if you're a good fit.
Yes.
Please.
Yeah, which.
Oh, Caitlin McLennan. No longer, fits our bylaws. She had to move out of Bluff and so she are working on a commission. So me too.
You had a great
Thank you for
career
applying.
opportunity up in Salt Lake, so you can't blame her.
I will say I don't understand why planning and zoning commissioner isn't a great career opportunity here. I will apologize for it. And I do appreciate all of the wonderful contributions, even in the short time that she had been filling another midterm vacancy seat for the last couple months. So thank you, Caitlin. We appreciate it. And I'm with Malia. Please. Please apply.
Yeah, how long is it open?
Yeah, so that is open until, this is why all my dates are probably confused. It is on.
Gary wants to go back.
Let's swap out.
It's paid.
It is,
I know
that was on the homepage. Application deadline, Monday, June 15th at 6 p.m. So then the planning and zoning commissioners can conduct interviews during their work session. So Monday, June 15th, 6 p.m. Send a letter of interest to planningzoning@townofbluffutah.gov.
You still have time. Feel free to come in my office, chat with me about it. Happy to do that.
Please.
Thanks, Malia. Okay, before we adjourn, just asking the council if there are any other items. I just wanted to reiterate something I said during the public hearing, which is just if you can check your email and there's any emails in there that didn't get to Aaron, that are comments, it'd be great to have those forwarded to Aaron so we can make sure they're on the website and then part of our packets so that we can make sure and all read them before our discussion next week. I would encourage everyone to, use this next week to make sure we've read all the comments that we need to get through those. I would offer, to sit down, and talk through things with anybody, ahead of time.
One-on-one basis,
Yeah.
for the clarification for the record, one-on-one basis.
Yeah, it wouldn't be.
It's not a quorum.
This wouldn't be, a meeting, but like if one-on-one, we want to talk. If you have questions for Aaron about how the taxes work, obviously kind of clear from some of the comments that it's so complex how Utah taxes work and understanding how it works is really tough. And I can't blame people for not totally understanding how Utah taxes work, but hopefully if we have questions about how it works, we should get clear on those before we're making decisions and voting on it. So this would ask you to do that before the next meeting, come to the work session with your ideas of what you think, how you think we ought to proceed. Brett, just to name, I'm gonna be out of town, so I will be online on Zoom. I'll make sure I'm on Zoom, but just in a weird case, there was some weird deal, if you can be ready to kind of run the meeting if need be.
Yeah, so.
Any other thoughts about prep for that work session meeting? Any other items before we adjourn?
I want to encourage everyone to look up
Yeah.
and see our.
Good job, Malia.
New LED lights.
And if you
Long
want to
time coming.
remember what it used to look like, we have one fluorescent left that can be replaced later. So just in case you're like, wait, I thought it always looked like this. It didn't.
And how much more efficient is this than the old stuff?
I'll get back to you on that.
Pretty, it's a
Longer.
grant application.
The
It's
best
pretty-
improvement is that light over there is not gonna fall out on anybody.
Yeah.
We also have new pictures on the stage, utility room, senior center, almost restrooms. Thank you, Aaron, for writing that grant.
Yeah, very excited to have that one done. My eye was not twitching during this meeting. Well, not for light.
For that.
Yeah, good stuff. No, thank you, and thank you to Malia for executing and following everything for that. So good work, team. Go team, go.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll consider ourselves adjourned at 5:23 PM.
Thanks all. See you next week. Two, please.